Good news, everybody. The Fantastic Four has finally come to theaters. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Let's try this again. Good news, everybody. The Fantastic Four has finally come to theaters. No, that's not it. Sorry. Hold on a second. Good news, everybody. The Fantastic Four has finally come to theaters.
Yay!
So now that Disney has the rights to Marvel's first family, will they finally be able to do the Fantastic Four right? Or will it be more like this?
Look at me!
Well, let's find out as we take a spoiler-free look at Fantastic Four First Steps. So, Fantastic Four First Steps starts like any great movie, with a man realizing that his life is officially over.
Are you pregnant?
Yeah, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
The movie then cuts to a 5-minute montage to catch the audience up on everything involving the Fantastic Four, including their names, why they first went to space, how they got their powers, all the enemies they fought over the years, and how they've used their powers and scientific genius to help mankind.
We love you, Fantastic.
As the baby's due date gets closer, Reed is nervous about what the effects of the radiation that gave the team their powers might do to the baby, but that's something they can't focus on for too long because out of nowhere, a silver naked woman on a surfboard tells everyone that a mysterious entity known as Galactus is coming to destroy the planet. So, the Fantastic Four do what they do best by going to space to find Galactus and try to convince it to spare the planet, which I think we can all agree is a great idea. After all, what could possibly go wrong when going to space?
That's amazing.
Unfortunately, it takes more than an office visit to convince an immortal space god to change its mind, and the Fantastic Four have to tell the Earth some terrible news.
Are we safe?
I don't know.
So now, with the Earth facing impending doom, the Fantastic Four must work together and use all their resources to figure out a way to beat this ultimate foe before it's too late. And when it's all said and done, the movie we end up with has some good moments, and it feels like it could have been really good. Unfortunately, however, it was executed pretty poorly. The script is bogged down by excessive exposition, introduces interesting character threads, but doesn't actually explore any of them, at times has some pretty rough special effects shots, and while the story is very simple, it's trying to do so much that it becomes convoluted. But before I get into all that, I'd like to mention a couple of things that I thought were pretty good, starting with the cast. Individually, I like all these actors. I think they played their parts very well, and when they're together and the movie decides to give the audience character moments to enjoy, I think the movie is at its best. Joseph Quinn and Eben Moss-Bacharach are both really good as Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm. However, there are times that they seem to be more like afterthoughts than fully realized characters, and it's disappointing that they didn't use those characters to their fullest. Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby are also very good. The two of them have great chemistry, and I was happy to see Pedro Pascal actually trying for a change. I mean, I know he's capable of good work, but it seems like he's been phoning it in the last few projects that I've seen him in. However, in this movie, it seemed like he had an actual connection to the material, and it shows on screen. I will also say, to the movie's credit, that for the most part, it's visually interesting. It doesn't look like a gross CGI void like most of the MCU has lately, and as a sucker for the retro-futuristic look of late 50s and early 60s science fiction, I enjoyed the overall aesthetic. I'll also say that I think they made Galactus a very imposing and menacing force. Well, at least at first anyway. Unfortunately, that menace is gone by the end of the movie, and he starts to come across as quite silly, but I suppose it could have been worse. He could have been a giant fart cloud in space. With all that said, the story is weighed down by exposition. The first 5-minute montage that explains the backstory of the Fantastic Four to the audience is information that, in theory, is important for them to know. This movie doesn't take place in the primary MCU, and it's a world that we're not familiar with. But all this exposition weighs the movie down like a pair of cement shoes, and it feels like it takes forever to get going. As I mentioned earlier, it starts with a montage to get the audience up to speed on the present day. Then, after about 30 minutes in the present day, there's another montage that spans a few months, and then they rush into the final fight. If I had to guess, I would say that the reason they did this is because there isn't much actual story. In fact, I know this is a spoiler-free review, but if you're curious, it bears a lot of similarity to the Fantastic Four 2, except with a baby that is fully CGI. Had the movie been more focused on the Fantastic Four's dynamics as a family and their interpersonal relationships, the movie would have been much improved because it would have helped the audience connect with the characters, which in turn would have given the movie more emotional weight. In fact, all they needed to do to make this happen is to watch a little movie called The Incredibles. Then they would have had the perfect template to work with. Finally, Marvel has got to get their act together when it comes to their CGI. This is not to say that every CGI shot is bad, but there are times, especially in the final fight, that it's early 2000s bad, especially with the Silver Surfer, who never looks convincing when they're on screen. Perhaps it's a result of Marvel not learning their lesson when it comes to overworking their effects teams. I honestly don't know, but they really need to figure it out. So, at the end of the day, would I recommend this movie? No, not really. Maybe on streaming. While there are some good things that I liked about it, they are so few and far between that they don't justify the expense of a movie ticket, even at a discounted price. And while I can say that it's certainly better than Marvel's last few outings, at the end of the day, it's just more evidence that the current state of the MCU is beyond repair. And I don't care how many actors come back or how much money you throw at them, there's nothing that can change that.